I want to divorce my wife because I resent her for not allowing me to help my sister when she was in need, and now my sister is no longer with us. This might be confusing and I'm an emotional wreck. It's 3 in the morning, so please excuse any typos or mistakes. All of this might be word vomit. I genuinely don't know what to say or how to arrange it. I have so much to say and such little courage to speak out to people I know in real life. TW, miscarriage/OD. For a little backstory, my sister, 25F, and my wife, I'll call her Maya, 28F, never got along. Basically, my sister was dating a guy when she was 17, who she didn't know was essentially leading 2 relationships. He was also dating Maya's friend, 28F, behind her back. Maya's friend, I'll call her Lena for clarity, has been with the guy for 6 years at this point. So I guess you could say that he cheated on her with my sister, but I want it to be fully known that my sister had no clue about this whole ordeal. She only found out 1 month into dating him, when Lena texted her. Lena was mad right off the bat. She called my sister slurs, yelled at her, harassed her, etc. While this whole thing happened, my sister kept me constantly updated as she was scared Lena would do something. And so it came, Lena attacked my sister. We ended up pressing charges, and that's when my wife came into play. She begged my sister to forgive Lena and drop charges because Lena had come from a broken and abusive household and the guy, I'll call him Max, was the only family she had ever known, so she wasn't in her right mind. And that if she goes to jail, she was an adult at the time, and would be treated as such, it could ruin her life. My wife swore that Lena would go through extensive therapy and Lena is ready to apologize and to please give her a chance. My sister immediately was against it, and it ended with some pretty nasty commentary. My sister ended up degrading Maya for essentially defending Lena, and Maya left incredibly heartbroken. My sister had felt bad as Maya didn't really outright take any part in the situation and ended up asking me to apologize in her stead, as Maya and I were in the same classes in high school and were acquaintances. We talked and essentially the whole thing smoothed over and we got closer. Then we started dating and eventually married. Little arguments came into play. For example, my wife has always been the type of person to say forgive and forget, while my sister is the type to hold people accountable. My wife has tried giving my sister advice on situations where my sister clearly didn't want advice, which then caused my sister to retaliate, and then they'd just be mad at each other. I didn't quite know what to do, so I pretty much kept them separated for the most part, and I talked to both of them individually to stop getting into each other's personal business, especially my wife, who wouldn't stop giving my sister unwanted advice. My wife didn't like that I took my sister's side, which I still disagree with. I didn't take my sister's side because she's my sister, but rather because I agree. I don't think people should have to forgive someone who clearly doesn't regret their actions, and I don't think people need to forget bad deeds being done to them. That's just one of the many examples of things my sister and my wife didn't see eye to eye on. After a while, my sister got married and moved to a different part of the country with her husband, and life went on. Eventually me and my wife also moved to another part of the country. Growing up, me and my sister weren't the super close type. We had conversations, we cared about each other and we loved each other, but we weren't the type to catch up every other day, or text very often, though of course there was the occasional conversation, jokes, etc. Majority of our interactions were on holidays and birthdays. We led extremely busy, hectic lives, and so we slowly lost contact. It was a few months ago where my sister called me crying, saying that she needed a place to stay and if she could come over and stay a few weeks. She was sobbing uncontrollably, and after a while she let me know that she had suffered a miscarriage, while her husband pretty much shrugged her off and left for a business trip that he had been assigned to. She told me that he had neglected for a long time. He had also cheated on her, which she had found out after a bit of searching around, and that she genuinely couldn't stand it anymore, and the fact that he wasn't there for her during her miscarriage proved that he didn't care for her and she wanted a divorce, but she hadn't had a job for a while and she's stuck because she doesn't know what to do, etc. Their finances were tied together completely and she didn't have money to leave. I told my wife about it and asked if she could stay with us, and the first thing she told me was absolutely not, and that if my sister comes, she'll leave. It's important to mention that my wife is 5 months pregnant. She said, and I quote, "I can't handle that negative little girl. I don't want my pregnancy to be a mess, filled with stress. It's my first pregnancy and it's important to me that everything is smooth sailing, and that she'd leave for her mom's if I let my sister come over." I tried to convince her over and over again, and that's when she started packing a bag, told me I'd be dead to her if I took my sister's side again, and that she's a grown fucking adult who needs to manage her own life, and if she can't, it might be time to learn to be better. After many arguments, I stopped. I called my sister back and let her know what my wife said, but that I'd 100% be open to flying her out, paying for a hotel as long as she needs, or even flying her out back to my parents' house. Money was never the issue, and I told her I could outright help her financially, whether it's shelter she needs, a divorce, anything. However, my wife is pregnant and she's giving me ultimatums and I don't know what to do, and I'm scared that stressing my wife out will cause complications, but that if she wants, I can go ahead and book her a hotel / help her rent out an apartment and make sure I visit her daily. Maya was also against me visiting her every day if I were to fly her out, because she thought that my sister needed to learn how to deal with her own problems and that Maya being pregnant requires priority. I argued with her through this and eventually she gave up. My sister texted me and apologized for bothering my wife and said that she's all good, she got clarity and she's fine. She'll work things out. She thanked me for being a good brother and congratulated me and my wife on our pregnancy. She told me that she'd never wreck someone's home and peace and that she loves me and is very grateful to have me as her brother, and she'll never forget our memories, ever. I think a lot of you know where this is going, and unfortunately that's exactly what happened. About a week later, my mom calls me crying and freaking out, and that my sister had OD'd. My mom calls my sister every day and keeps contact with her constantly, and so when my sister stopped responding to calls, messages, etc., my mom had my cousin do a wellness check on her. I was completely shocked and quite literally so angry at myself. I think her text makes it obvious what she was about to do, and yet I was dumb enough to not realize. I told my wife and she immediately went from being shocked to saying sorry over and over again, and then eventually she just wept for hours. She said that she never expected this to happen and she would have never wanted this outcome. I didn't speak to her, nor say anything, and I sat frozen as I bought a ticket to go see my family and attend my sister's funeral. My wife begged to go and I told her I don't want her to come. She ended up quieting down and I didn't take her with me. At the funeral, everyone was a crying mess. Friends, cousins, extended family came and gave their condolences to me, but they didn't know that I was the brother who turned away his sister as she was going through the worst time of her life. Everything was a blur as I flew back and came home. I've been simply working, eating, and sleeping. Maintaining minimum routine. I haven't had a singular conversation with my wife, who won't stop crying. Obviously she has absolutely no more blame on this situation than I have. I could have helped more. I could have called her, I could have flown out to stay with her. I could have done everything, yet I chose not to. And now I'm stuck scrolling through our messages. The stupid silly stickers she used to send. The social media posts and videos she'd send me and caption it with us. Or something similar. I'll never get it back. I'll never get random messages of my little sister asking me for $15 so she could grab a sweet treat. I'll never be able to go on night drives with my sister as 2016 music blasted through my speakers as she screamed the lyrics with our windows down. I'll never get it back. I know none of this is Maya's fault, yet every time I look at her I genuinely get this spark of disgust. This anger that I genuinely don't know what to do with. When I close my eyes, I can't imagine a future with her. Would she have done the same and turned her sister away when needed help? If her brother needed help? Would she have done the same if Lena, who she still is acquainted with, needed help? What happened to forgiving and forgetting? I genuinely dislike my wife so much I don't even know if anything can fix it. I know she can sense how much I've pulled back as she has started putting much more effort into the relationship. I come home to freshly cooked meals, freshly baked desserts. She's always dressed up with a smile. And yet I still don't feel a hint of love that I once felt. I eat outside before I come home now. When I come home from work, I just immediately go to bed. The only time we actually interact is when I drive her to appointments. Other than that, we are essentially not talking at all. My mom called me a few days after and yelled at me for letting my wife treat my sister so badly. I assumed it was the off-putting advice or something of that sort, but turns out my wife had texted my sister after our argument about my sister coming over. It was the cruelest, most disgusting series of texts I've ever seen. Maya basically called her names, told her to stop disturbing me and ruining the peace in our home, and that just because she went through a miscarriage doesn't mean that she gets to put my wife through a similar level of stress. My sister tried defending herself in the text, but Maya continued saying, "Maybe this miscarriage was your karma because of how much you get in the way of relationships," referring to Lena and Max, and me and Maya. I was so fucking disgusted reading that text. My mom, who had received my sister's phone after everything was sorted out, went through her messages to essentially let people know she was deceased. Friends who may have not been in touch for a while. That's when she saw Maya's texts. I genuinely have never felt so ill, so disgusted, so hateful. I like to think that I am a pretty calm person, and I'm level-headed, but every time I see Maya, it's like I get a surge of anger. This absolute disgust I can't shake. I've tried coping with this by staying out after work, though I don't think it's working as much as I'd like it to. Will couples counseling fix this? Has anyone ever been in this situation? I pray no one did go through this, but I just want perspective. How do I get over this? Do I just divorce her and make sure my kid is well cared for? Do I forget this and pretend it didn't happen and continue being in this relationship? I don't want her to struggle with her pregnancy either, yet my brain genuinely cannot forget this. My brain genuinely can't process affection for her.